But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. And dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to another episode of the 49er Faithful UK Live. I'm Paul Hope.
And I'm Nick Ludlam.
Now, as we've still got 198 days to go until the NFL season starts, well, the season opener, that is, everyone, you may be wondering, what do me and Nick have to talk about tonight? Well, fear not, Faithful, as I'm sure you'll know me and Nick by now, there's always something to talk about when you follow the San Francisco 49ers. Isn't that right, Nick?
Oh, there's always something going on. I mean, there's always someone's always pinching a coach of ours, or it's the offseason. We're coming up to free agency. There's so much to go on about. Come on, there's plenty. I think. Sorry, go.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, for those people who may think the 49er Faithful UK have gone into hibernation because it's the off season, it's XFL, it's NBA, it's MLB. Dare I say Premier League? Not for the 49er Faithful UK. That said, we're not going to dive into free agency tonight, and we're going to try to stay away from a certain position that number 10, number 5, and number 13 may play. That said, given the chat, we may not get away with that aim, Nick, but that is the aim for tonight's show.
Indeed, I say. I think, well, a nice place to start is something that we deliberately left out last week because it's something that's probably incredibly close to the heart of every single one of the faithful. Now, we talked about the various awards that came along and were thoroughly well deserved by everyone that won. But there was one that we didn't talk about. Now, there was the Hall of Fame announcement. Now, we had the same conversations last year. Dare I say it, Paul? I think we all had them about a certain Patrick Willis. Once again, Patrick Willis is not a Hall of Famer. What's going on here? Paul, please help, enlighten me. I need it.
Well, as you said, Nick, on last week's show, we talked about the NFL honours, and I'm known by most as a biased homer. I am red and gold through and through, and I make no bones about that. But I think even the most ardent NFL fan must look at this one and think, when you look at the Hall of Fame and you look at what it means to be in the Hall of Fame, you need someone who's changed the game at the position they've played. Now, you may think, what does little old Paul Hope in the northeast of England know about the Hall of Fame? Now, that quote I have just used, Nick, was by none other than Deion Sanders, prime time. He's been very vocal about what the category should be for people who go in the Hall of Fame. And I definitely thought Patrick Willis was going to be a lock-in. Now, for me, mate, Patrick Willis, when I first got into this sport, I couldn't believe he was actually human on that field. I mean, when I first started watching the NFL, I didn't really understand the ins and outs. All I know was 52 was a ball-wrecking machine. And we look at Fred Warner now, and you look at how all the plaudits Fred Warner gets. But I think Patrick Willis was that first stereotype linebacker that we see in the game today. Yeah. And that, for that reason, mate, that's why I can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame. Now, we're going to get into it, everybody in the chat. Before Nick gets to respond, we have been joined by 49ers royalty, Mariah. It's nice for you to check in. We've got a good friend of ours, Melissa. Always nice to see familiar faces. Jamie has dropped by. Good evening. I am well, Jamie. I've just scoffed a couple of pancakes down me before we started because I got my timings wrong. So I am feeling rather good. And Trailblazer, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice to have you, Mum.
So Nick, I'm sure you're on the same page as me that Patrick Willis definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we should be celebrating Patrick Willis, Hall of Famer. Already, we should have been celebrating it last year. There's obviously been a lot of talk with Zach Thomas getting in, linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, phenomenal career. Really did. You know, they won the same amount of All-Pro honors, and they also had the same amount of Pro Bowl berths. I mean, so you can see why he's gone in, but they've gone on about the whole longevity thing. You know, Zach did have a longer career. Okay, let's twist that a little bit. Everything that Zach Thomas achieved, Pat Willis did it in a shorter amount of time. Now, you can't then say, oh, you got to let Zach in. He's been waiting longer. Whoa. Waiting is not a prerequisite of being a Hall of Famer. It's not. You know, it's one of those things. I'm sorry, Patrick Willis was more deserving. He may have had a short career, but he did everything everything Thomas did. He did it in a shorter time span. And like I said, he changed the game. He was special. Like you said, I swear, if that man ran at a skyscraper, he would take it down. That thing would be horizontal in seconds, much like a kicker from a specific tackle that we all remember. I mean, that was beastly. I mean, that will live on in my dreams forever and a day. I love it. I love watching replays of it. It's crazy to me that he's not in the Hall of Fame. You know, we should be celebrating this man. And you look at how humble he is about the whole thing. You know, and it can only serve to endear you more to the man. You know, he's not kicking up this massive fuss about it. He's there. He's fairly nonchalant about the whole thing, dare I say it. He sits back, you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know, oh, congratulations, everyone. He's the consummate pro. He's everything that you want in a Hall of Famer and more. It's bonkers, absolutely bonkers to me that he's not there.
Well, we said that at the start, Nick. So we look at longevity, and that's a stick that's used to beat Patrick Willis. Now, that sounds like common sense. You'd think the players that have played the longest would get in. And that is until I was researching for tonight's show. And you remember that Patrick Willis and all the linebackers in the NFL, their actual job is to run full speed, as you've said, not into skyscrapers, but into other human beings. And when we say other humans, the noise is right there. That sounded just what it would sound like. You're talking about elite athletes, and you go back and you watch Willis's highlights. And for the time he was in the NFL, he changed the game at that position. And yes, he had to call it a career because of injuries. But for me, like Primetime says, if you're ignoring 8 years of dominant play in the NFL at that position, it's just silly for me. And obviously, you get people saying, oh, 49ers fans, you're biased, you're this. I'll ask you this, Nick. Did Jerry Rice really need to go over to Auckland in the last few years of his career to get in the Hall of Fame, to add those years on his resume? Did Joe Montana need to go and become a chief for a couple of years? Were they going to say, oh, actually, you can't get in, mate. You didn't play long enough. Now, again, two of those names I've mentioned, obviously we all hold dear to our heart, do have the one thing that Patrick doesn't have, which I think you knew where I was going when I went down that path of comparison. Yeah. And that, for me, if you're going to base it purely on Super Bowl rings, you could go through the Hall of Fame and take certain people out of there, because not everybody gets a Super Bowl ring. As we said on last week's show, for people tuning in, winning the Super Bowl isn't easy. There's 31 teams sat at home unhappy. There's only the Chiefs and their fans who are rightly celebrating. So I always think that's a bit of a cop-out when you say, oh, Willis isn't in the Hall of Fame because he didn't have Super Bowl rings. I mean, if you look at, he played around 112 games, which isn't exactly a short amount in the NFL. He was basically a 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, Rookie of the Year. He was on the All-Decade team. Anything else you want to throw in, Nick, that I'm just reeling off there?
They line up, don't they? And I want to come back again to that point you say about the Super Bowl. Zach Thomas doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. You know, the whole thing is crazy. I would be really interested to see what the narrative is when Luke Kuechly's turn comes around, because he's going to be on there. He's a phenomenal linebacker, and I think Luke Kuechly's going to go to the Hall of Fame as well. Now, if Luke Kuechly gets in his first 2 ballots, something's not right there, because they played the same amount of time. Again, everything's very similar if you go look at their stats and what they achieved across their careers. So it absolutely baffles me. It really does that Patrick Willis isn't already in. Okay, I get the argument. I'm a homer. Maybe he didn't deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Fame. He deserved it this time. With what he achieved across his career, he deserved it this time. As this isn't a knock on Zach Thomas. I just think Patrick Willis is more deserving. He's the better player. And isn't that what the Hall of Fame is all about?
I mean, we're sat here spoiled as 49ers fans. We're used to elite defense play, especially in my time as a fan. And we sat with Nick Bosa, newly crowned Defensive Player of the Year. But I think some people forget where Patrick Willis had the 2 seasons where he was 7th and 5th overall in the Defensive Player of the Year awards. And as a linebacker, that was pretty much unheard of in his time that you said there. Luke Kuechly, he was brilliant for the Panthers. I remember thinking he is a player. And when he called it a day, I thought, bloody hell, he could have gone on for years and years. And then you could turn the longevity argument on its head. I have my head coach at the flag football team, Nick, is a Broncos fan. And you talk to him about Manning, and he's like, towards the end of Manning's career, we all know it wasn't pretty. He didn't win that Super Bowl for the Broncos. But did Willis do himself a service by not continuing? He had such high standards, and he knew he couldn't reach those due to injury. I mean, I don't mind sharing with you. It was my first taste, really, of the NFL offseason when Willis retired. Because I always used to say to all my friends, the NFL season, it runs from September to February. And then obviously I got more involved with the group and I started doing the podcasts. And I remember, I think I was either going to work or I was on my lunch break. And I remember the YouTube notification popping up. And it was Willis's press conference and he was crying and he was retiring. And I went back to work that afternoon. And my colleagues were like, "Are you all right?" I said, "No, not really. Patrick Willis is retired." And they were like, "All right, is that bad?" I was like, "That is really bad." Yeah. And it took a while for the news to sink in. As Jason, who's joined us from Facebook, has put on there, Patrick Willis, 52, Superman, should be in. And I mean, we chuckled tonight, Nick, ahead of tonight's show. I've taken a liking to a certain GIF with number 54.
Yeah.
However, my other GIF that I used to use a lot was the one where Willis laid out the receiver from the Jets. And it's a hit to me, which is as good as the one Taylor laid in the Pro Bowl. Just before we move on, Nick, so we're joined.
Hello, Ty.
He says, "What's up, faithful?" And he says, "Salute to Mr. VP and Mr. All Pro." So I'd love to know what the people in the chat think. I mean, I'd like to hope, but I always live in hope, that they're on the same page as me and you, that obviously Willis should be in there. And we wanted to talk about it tonight because we didn't touch upon it on the podcast. And last week, when we were talking about the honours, me and you came off air and we were like, we wanted to give Patrick Willis a little bit more love and attention. So, I mean, for me, he's one of my favourite 49ers. He was one of my first jerseys. I love watching his highlights. I mean, how do you feel about 52?
I love the man. You know, he embodies everything that a 49er is supposed to be. I mean, I was just becoming I've been watching the sport for a few years. When he was, I suppose I just got into the sport as he was coming into the league, really. But it wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 years into his career that I became a proper faithful. You know, really it became an obsession of mine. And he was just always there. You know, he was where you needed to be all the time on defense. And it was him and Bo. You know, that was a special pairing, the two of them. And I love Bowman. I always preferred Bowman for some reason over Willis. But then I think that was that early days for me. I didn't really understand the nuances of it all. I didn't really appreciate fully how epic Patrick Willis was. He's just phenomenal. He's everything you want a 49er to be. I mean, he's just so good to watch.
And he continues to be so, as Ty has put there. He should definitely be in. great player, great 49er, did everything he was asked to do and more. You touched upon it at the start, buddy. He's very humble. He's a great follow on social media. He always engages with the faithful. Obviously, I'm known for liking a tweet or two. I still get goosebumps when he's replied to a couple of the tweets on the 49er Faithful UK account. He's engaged with a lot of the UK faithful. There was a cheeky rumour flying around that he was going to be coming over to Leeds, which could you imagine if 52 came to the official watch party? That would have been unreal.
Mind-blowing.
Said jersey that I bought was a small, no longer fit me, so I passed that on to another faithful at the Leeds meetup. But I did manage to pick up a Willis Reebok jersey off eBay for about £8. And I remember when it came, Tracy was like, "Don't you already have a 52 jersey?" I was like, "You can never have enough 52 jerseys, Tracy." And before you, obviously, we move on, I had Bowman and Willis at the same time. And I remember my friends being a bit confused. You've got two American football jerseys. One's number 52, one's number 53. And I was like, these guys are awesome. And I suppose when most UK fans get into the game, Nick, they tend to focus on the offensive side of the ball. You tend to play Madden. You tend to want to be the quarterback. So I, like you, started to take a bit more of an interest in the defensive side. And anybody who's met me in real life knows why I play flag football. There's no way I'd survive contact at all. I'm not built for it. But
it's insane.
Given that I'm probably the least most violent person you could ever meet, the fact that I love the big hitters in the team, and obviously I've replaced 52 and 53 with 54 now, I just think it's just, when I do eventually get out to the States, I do want to go to the Hall of Fame, and I would love, when I do go, for Willis to be in, because as I said, and I may be biased, Nick, he changed the game, and I'll stand by that, and anybody can come at me in my DMs. Being joined by a good friend of ours, so Mr. Pippin, he said he should be in there for one reason and one reason only, because Kev's eldest first jersey is a 52.
Good lad.
Put on there that he owns one white road jersey. So that was the jersey that I had, Ty. So I don't know if you remember, Nick, a few years ago, Nike UK had like a weird 50% fire sale off game jerseys. So it reduced the cost to like £30. And the only choice for the Niners was a white Willis. So there was definitely a lot of them when got bought.
It's not a bad singular choice to have, in fairness. Let's be honest.
But I mean, trying to think what else we can say on it. He's been very humble about it. I do think he will get in. I agree with something you said, and I didn't respond to. I don't like this argument of how long he's waited. The interview I was talking about, I think it was not long after Deion Sanders got the coaching job at Colorado. And I'm sure he's talking to Rich Einstein. He's talking to someone big at the talking heads. He was very vocal about his category. And he was talking about all these great players. And he was saying, but for him, the Hall of Fame is the Jerry Rices, the Joe Montanas. You know, you look at, like we've said, Patrick Willis. Go and get me another linebacker before Patrick Willis, who came in, changed the game. But that said, faithful, if he's not in next year, I think me and Nick might have to start a Twitter campaign, because we're not taking it. And if you're watching, Patrick, we've got your back, buddy. We're coming. We'll get behind those keyboards and we'll
Yeah, you're not going to want to. Let's be honest, the man's about the size of the two of us combined still. I mean, he can do more damage than both of us combined.
Yeah. And like you said, we just wanted to open the show tonight, everybody, by showing our love, sharing our memories. Like we said, there's going to be lots to talk about. The off season, as I said, we've got 198 days before we have NFL back. Now, before we get onto the team news, Nick, you texted me, I think it was either last night, this morning, and you said, should we dip our toe into the XFL? Now, admittedly, everybody, I haven't watched any of it, mate. I've seen a little bit, like the highlights on social media, but I haven't watched any. I was just wondering, did you watch it? Is that why you texted me?
No, I was just curious, to be honest. I mean, I remember I watched it the first time round, and it was quite fun. You know, it was good for, I think it was PJ Walker. I'm sure he came out of the XFL and not the USFL. And he was really fun to watch. So you never know who's going to come through, you know?
Now, I was watching the Larry Kruger show a couple of days ago, and Larry was talking about the XFL. And he was saying that for him, the NFL is king. And the only way secondary football could kind of dip its toe into the water and take a lion's share of the market is if they aligned with the NFL. So like he was saying, maybe they become like a feeder league, or you get a bit of a buy. And like he said, for example, the team names. Now, me and you were sat here decked out in red and gold. And we get asked as UK fans, if London got a franchise, would you change your fan? And we're like, no, we wouldn't change our team. We wouldn't change our fandom.
Nope.
So when Larry was talking, Nick, I thought that made quite good sense, that what he was saying was there's a gap in the market now with the NFL not back on until September. But I kind of got what he was saying because my loyalty's already bought and paid for. Now, I did watch a bit of the NBA All-Star League. I did kind of dip a bit on social media. NFL's still key for me. I'm still watching all the content creators. I'm still reading all the articles. I'm still tweeting out. So as we said at the start, me and Nick aren't going anywhere for a while. If there is any topic you would like us to touch upon, maybe not tonight in the comments because we do try and keep this to an hour. But obviously you can hit us up in our DMs. We might start putting some tweets out in the run-up to the show, Nick, asking what people want us to talk about. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, I'm going to say the XFL was up one my notepad. Now, team news. Believe it or not, the 49ers do have some team news. And I believe we've got a couple of additions to the coaching staff, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one, we lost Bobby Slowick. I think that's obviously been known for a little while, but it seems that position has been filled. I'm not sure if it's actually been formally announced yet, or if it's just been announced, sort of said by all the bigwigs around the league. But we have a new player in the game, and now you can't say he's going to be the new offensive coordinator because so far all we really know is he's going to get a top role in the offensive coaching staff. And of course, we're talking about Clint Kubiak. Now, take away his name for a moment. There's obviously going to be some history there with the Shanahans and Kubiaks. We'll come to that in a minute. But this is much more of a Kyle Shanahan hire. You know, after the change at defensive coordinator, we went with experience. This time we've gone back to young, highly thought of, innovative. We've got, obviously, he's come over now to us. He's going to have this top role within the offense. I think maybe they're waiting to define potentially what his role is going to be to see what happens with Anthony Lynn, see if he does leave, because he's in the last couple of days, he's been linked with the Denver Broncos offensive coordinator job. And in fairness, he did a fine job with our running backs last year as the assistant head coach / running back coach. But Clint's going to come in, and I like this. I mean, if you look at it, like I said, he is that up-and-coming youngster, but he has a wealth of experience already. At 35 years old, he already has 8 years of coaching experience. He's gone from Texas A&M over to the Vikings, where admittedly he was hired by his father. So you could argue potentially a bit of nepotism there, maybe. Then he went away again, back to college football with the Kansas Jayhawks. Then he gets rehired back into the NFL with the Broncos, and of course then ended up with the Vikings. Now, when he's back at the Vikings, he ends up as the quarterbacks coach at first. And then when his father retires, he goes on and takes over. I don't think that's happening, Ty. I don't know. Well, I'll be all right. I could do it. Yeah, he takes over from his father. And if you look at the Vikings offense, the Vikings' problem was never their offense. It was always their defense. They always conceded a lot of points. When you actually look at the Vikings' time, but the time he was there, in 2020, when he's the quarterbacks coach, only 3 times did they score less than 20 points in a game. And at no point did they get less than double figures. When he takes over as OC in 2021, okay, there's a small dip. In fairness, I give him a small dip. It's his first time as offensive coordinator. That goes to only 5 times under 20 points and 1 time under 10. But again, it's his first time. You're going to expect a small dip from, moving away from an incredibly experienced coach in his father, in his own right. He did phenomenal things with multiple teams around the league. I like it. I really do. I mean, we can come on to the whole sort of background in a moment, but what were your initial thoughts when this whole thing with Kubiak was announced?
So like you, I instantly picked up on the Denver Broncos and the Gary Kubiak connection. When I was rehabbing last year, I spent a lot of time reading autobiographies, getting my knowledge of the past 49ers. So I read Steve Young's autobiography. I read Bill Walsh, Score Takes Care of Itself. And you start looking into those great teams and the connection between the Kubiaks and the Shanahans. I did chuckle. He's not the first Kubiak that Shanahan has, so we've now got two on the on the roster, on the coaching staff. And I'm laughing because when Kyle Shanahan became head coach, he was handpicked by the Yorks, and he was told he could do what he wanted, and he handpicked John Lynch. And it's quite unique that Kyle's got this power. Now, we've said on the shows that I do with yourself and with the podcast, Kyle Shanahan doesn't quite get the credit sometimes, Nick, for the turnaround on the coaching staff. When you look around the league now, the Shanahan coaching tree. So for me, I'm totally all in on Kyle Shanahan. He could promote you as tight ends coach, as Ty said. And as Ty said there, you instantly denied the rumour. So I must admit, Ty's been a bit vague with his availability over the next couple of weeks. So I've just put it out there. But I think Kyle Shanahan's proven, Nick, I think he said to these people who's got connections with, come and work for me. If you've got ambitions to become a head coach or a coordinator in your own right, I'm not going to stand in your way. However, if you come and work for me, you've got to be all in. So I thought it was a good hire. I have practiced pronouncing the surname because that's not my strength. Alex Simpson and Lee will attest to that. But I think Kyle Shanahan's building his pieces around him. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was the players on vacation with Kyle in Cabo. And I know you said you hadn't seen much about it. Now, for me, as my social manager media role, I've seen it straight away because Debo, Kittle, Debo's misses, Kittle's misses, they were all tweeting it, they were all Instagramming it. And I think it shows the connection that we've got in this team, that the players and the coaching staff, they have all got this collective objective. The season ended the way it ended, and other teams are probably off the go. They're not going to see them till OTA or to training camp. And it was nice to see Debo there this year because obviously last year he was holding out. And I think it's proven with the Kubiak hire, so I was bringing it all back, is Kyle's putting his people around him. How can you not get excited by that, Nick?
This is it. I mean, it's not like we were the only team looking at Kubiak as well. I mean, he did interview with the Bucks for their offensive coordinator job. Clearly, we're going to be a more attractive option than the Bucks, given that they've just lost another quarterback. I've never heard his name before, TB something. He's got some silly logo anyway. But we were clearly a far more attractive option to come and join. Who doesn't want to coach under Kyle Shanahan? Like you said, he gets you hired. If you want to go on and be a head coach, he'll get you there. It's happening year on year, and I wish it would slow down. To be honest, it'd be nice to keep a coordinator in place for more than 2 or 3 years. But you can't argue with the success that the team is having, and it's translating because every team wants what we have. They've said it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You can say it as many times as you want. It's a copycat league, and every team is now like, okay, we want this. We want this piece of yours. We want this piece of yours. And then as one of those pieces leaves, they take a couple of pieces with them as well. There's obviously a gentleman's agreement in place behind the scenes that certain people can go with at certain times. But it's continued success time after time after time, no matter who seems to come in.
As Ty said there, Shanahan has always done a great job with building the strong coaching staff. So I was a little bit distracted there, Nick, because I didn't share this with you in my notes, but reading an article on Niners Nation, which was done by an author that I like, Carl Posey. So the article's out there for you to go and read. And the NFL have ranked the teams in categories. So they've ranked 8 separate categories, the best being major contenders, the elite. Now, the 49ers have been found among the elite. So in the major contender category already for next year, you've got the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Niners. Now, the reason I mention that, mate, is well documented by Mr. Gowland that we've got a lot of free agents. There's going to be high turnover on both sides of the ball. Our offensive line, the defensive side of the ball. Hence why we said at the start, don't worry, people. If you're tuning in for that kind of talk tonight, hold your horses.
There's plenty of time.
Can't get it all out yet. But seeing things like that, so it isn't just me and you as fans in the UK sat here saying, oh, the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl next year. They're going to go 17-0 because Paul and Nick say so. I mean, you can document that. You can screenshot it because it is what's going to happen. But
you said the same thing every year, mate.
Spoiler. But it just goes to show, and I like the fact that if you think back, some people were getting concerned with the slow starts for Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, last year we went 3-5. We had that awful game in the rain against the Colts. This year, heading into bye week 4-4. But I think what people need to remember is the grass isn't always greener. You know, you go back to Chip Kelly, you go back to Jim Tomsula. I had the hope. I got up in the middle of the night and watched those games, but we watched some bad football. And what I like is I listened to Kyle Shanahan when he was interviewing, the 49ers weren't his only team. Kyle Shanahan had his pick of the league, and he went to the Yorks and he said, if I'm coming in here, you're going to give me what I want. Ty, post away. Post away, buddy.
I am never going to think anything other than exactly that every year.
The reason I mentioned it, Ty, is when we were preparing for tonight's show, Nick was wanting to tie me down to doing a very early prediction, by his own admittance, of going through the schedule of games we could win, games we might lose. And I just texted back and said 17-0. And he was like, yeah, I know what you like, Paul. So we scrapped that idea because I took all the fun out of it for him. But we're allowed at this time of the off-season to be optimistic. We're allowed to be, right, we're going to win every game. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And we did the season review show last night, Nick, which hasn't dropped yet. So for those people tuning in, the 49er Faithful UK, the Awesome Foursome, we always do a preview at the start of the season. We give some rather bold, somewhat silly predictions. And what we do at the end of every season, we go back and we dust them off. Now, there was some not so silly. There was one of the four got the season score prediction of 13-4 correct. I mean,
I wonder who that was.
I wonder who that was. But it was good to go back last night with the fellas, Nick, and talk about the season that we've just had. Look at the games running up to the bye week. Looking at the games afterwards. So that pod will drop in the next couple of days. So I'm not going to spoil it. As Nick has become the fifth member of the group and he isn't on that show, I'm allowed to get some of his thought process on the year that's just gone by and how you're feeling heading into this off-season, buddy.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I mean, admittedly, something Lee said in the comments in the last show has been haunting my dreams about the potential for a trade of one of the players. Is that, I can't seem to shift this horrible feeling that someone is leaving, but it is the nature of the game. You know, the new teams are produced every single year, but the spine will still be there. You know, it's not going to go horrifically wrong, I don't think. And not unless we have another ridiculous injury hit season. I don't see it going particularly wrong. I think we'll be a playoff contender for sure. If you look at the other teams in the division, I think a lot of them are retooling. I think the Seahawks got lucky. They got very lucky for how well they did. I think they're going to be considerably worse next year. Of course, they've got their trouble with, will they have Geno? I think Geno or not, they're still not going to be a playoff team. But there we are. It's that wonderful time of the year, though, with this amazing sport where hope springs eternal. You know, it's that time of the year where even if you were the 0-16 Browns, there's still hope. You know, you can still pull through. You can still do something because who knows what can happen in the NFL. And that's the wonderful part about this time of year. Yes, it is rough. You know, with the turnover of staff, of players, it can get a bit rough, especially when teams go trading your favorite players away and stuff. But the hope is there. You know, it's.
And as he
let's
said,
go.
This guy's a genius. I'll be honest, Ty. Got it that bye week 4-4. I didn't think we'd win 10 on the bounce, but CMC helped his guy out on the side of the pond. But no, I think the reason we're all optimistic, Nick, is we haven't done the 49er Faithful UK Awards. I give it the full
Mhm.
name because, as I said last week, don't want to get kicked off YouTube just yet. And Gareth says the acronym a lot better than me. So in the coming weeks, we are going to be talking about, the 49er Faithful UK, what our favourite players were, our awards, which are always well received. It's one of our most downloaded episodes. So once that's dropped, I'm dying to talk to you about yours, because as I've pointed out, you're now the 5th member of the team. So you do the weekly live with me. And we're trying to get that good dynamic, everyone, where we're not stepping on each other's toes, but equally, we are all part of the same group. And I don't know if you saw, but the NFL have dropped their top 10 players of the year. I couldn't tell you what 1 to 9 is, because number 10 is the Debo touchdown against the Rams in the first game. Do you know where he took Jalen Ramsey's soul? And I can't stop watching it on repeat. So I'm like,
good.
I haven't started my prep yet for the award show, because normally I go back and I watch as many of the games as possible. I pick out all the highlights, and straight away I was like, I have to narrow it down to my offensive player of the year and my defensive player of the year. I mean, preparing for tonight is hard enough sometimes, let alone narrowing the season that we've just had. And you look at the players that we've had. So on that basis, mate, I'm looking forward to the pod dropping. I'm looking forward to people's feedback.
Same. I am looking forward to what you guys come out with on there. I must be honest. I'm going to be straight on that. I'm going to be bugging Lee and like 24 hours beforehand. You put it on yet? Put it on yet? You put it on yet? You put it on yet? I might just create a GIF with one of those things. Have you put it on yet? So, just so I can just keep reposting that.
So at this point, I didn't do it at the start. I was trying to mix it up. So as you can see there, I would love for the 49er Faithful UK Twitter account to have some more followers. Me and Nick would be ever so grateful if you could drop us a follow and a subscribe on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share where you get this from. Like I said, we ain't going anywhere in the off season, and we're looking forward to getting bigger and better and bringing you more content. Now, before we move on, Nick, there is a slight topic close to our heart that seems to be taken off. Now, you were the original 49er Faithful UK flag football player. You talked to me about it. I suddenly started to have a go. Then Connor Ryans joined my team. Gary Thorpe has joined his local team. And Chris Leo Wayne texted last night to say he's joined his team. And I think James Evans
too, yeah.
So it is, when people say, what are you going to do with the off-season? Nadji said he plays contact, he plays football. And I was feeling rather proud. I was like, well, I play flag football. And the flag football season's just about to start. So on a separate note, everybody, it is absolutely awesome to see everybody getting involved in the local flag football teams, your contact teams. The BAFA season's about to start. If you can't play, you want to get involved, I'm sure every team will be looking for social media people, photographers, supporters. I just wanted to throw that out there, Nick, because obviously you're like me. Your season must be getting close to starting, is it, buddy?
Yeah, we've had a few friendlies. Obviously, the team went up to just outside of Glasgow for the Ironman competition. It's not a tournament I'm capable of playing in. It's they run a format with the games literally start early doors, 9 a.m. and they play till long into the night. But you're only allowed 6 players. That's it. 6 players, and you have to play offense and defense. I'm a center. I'm offensive specialist. I would hinder any team in that tournament. It just wouldn't be fair because everyone else would have to play defense whilst I'm resting because I need my rest. But like you say, it is a lot of fun. You've got the BAFA season now is going to be starting in April. We've got our practice scrimmages coming up with various teams. We've got friendly starting the lineup as well. Every team's going to be doing the same. Guys, if you get involved, go play. Even if you're just going there to train, learn the nuances of the game. It's absolutely phenomenal. I can only speak along the lines of flag. Myself, I've never played in the contact leagues, but the community is brilliant. It really, and it's a lot of fun. It actually genuinely is. Flag is more about the skill positions. And I play center, but the moment I've snapped the ball, I become a receiver. It's all about the skill position. It's all about those wide receivers. It's all about those cornerbacks and safeties. It's all about the big plays. It's a lot of fun. If there is a team nearby, join. Even if you just go along and decide, you know what, this isn't for me, go along, give it a go. Have something to do in the off season. I can't tell you how much fun it is. All I know is how much the sport helped me with coming back when I was first diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after my first season. I was getting messages from other teams around England and Wales. They were phenomenal. I'd been playing against these guys. There'd been a little bit of back and forth during games, but when it came down to it, they were behind me. I can't speak highly enough of the American football community, the playing community within the UK, guys. If you've got the chance, go and play. I urge you to do it. Don't wait as long as me and Paul did. Don't wait until you're almost over the hill. Go out there, get going. I mean, and who knows? Flag's going to become an Olympic sport. If you're 18, 19, you're watching this, who knows? Yeah, you could be an Olympian one day.
Well, I'm glad.
Go for it.
I'm glad you threw that in, because I was rudely reminded that by the time those Olympics come round, there's no hope for me. And I normally live in eternal hope, but I echo everything my good friend Nick has said there. I got the bug, and despite my injury last year, I battled back. It's something I'm proud of, and I don't care if people watching are like, oh, you're always talking about that injury, and you're always talking about coming back. It is one of the proudest moments of my life. Now, Ty, you're stealing my thunder, buddy. But the reason I've mentioned that, Ty, is Lee Gowland has launched a website. I haven't put the link up. I'll have to do that after the show. I've been at work today. So we have got our own website. If you Google 49erFaithfulUK. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that, Ty, is Lee has done an article, but someone else has done an article that really touched me. And I'm talking about my friend Nick. Nick, your article was absolutely awestruck. I was awestruck by it. I was blown away. I showed it to Tracy. I've mentioned it to colleagues at work. So I just wanted to mention that on air tonight, because honestly, writing that, it must have took you right back, buddy, did it?
Yeah, it was difficult. As I mentioned in the article, that first week, that was the worst week of my life. It was. There's no two ways about it. I was terrified. You find out you've got lesions on your brain and on your spine, and no one tells you what it means. It's incredibly scary. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried a lot that week. But as I go on and say within the article, it was the Niners that gave me that escapism, that game against the Broncos. It was awesome. For 3 hours, I was just able to forget what was going on. It wasn't about, oh my God, what's going on anymore. There was no more, how sick am I? It is all in the article, Ty, you're right. But it is there. It's, yeah. That was, like I say, that was the worst week of my life, and those 12 months were the worst and the best year of my life. Result, finally ending up at Levi's Stadium, and just seeing Levi's for that first time when I got off the train. You get off the VTA and you're there, and you're just confronted by this massive glass front of Levi's with 49ers logo, and I'm stood there and it's like, I've done it. That everything that's happened in that 12 months, I'm there, and I just burst into tears. I was so happy. I'd made it, and I say it is in the article. There is a link as well for the MS Society, and there's a lot of players around the league, thankfully, that use the MS Society of America for my claws, my cleats. DJ Reed being one of them. I believe his mum's got MS, and he wears that charity very proudly. There's a number of them around the league. Christian Barmore of the New England Patriots supported them last year. There's a few. It was, yeah. It was a bit something.
I will tweet the article out again, Ty. And to be honest, Nick, obviously people listening thinking Paul's bigged this up to be the most awesome article. What I meant was you sharing your story. I've met Nick through the 49ers. We were online friends, podcasters, and then we've met in person. And me and Nick, good friends. We share everything on and off the field, not just football. So I love that you share your story. I echo what Kev has said. I've met a good bunch of the Swansea Hammerheads in my limited time. They always speak highly of Nick. And like you said, Nick, what we're trying to grow with the 49er Faithful UK community, it is evident in the American football community in the UK. Ty is buzzing because, yes, he beat me to the punch. So some people may think that me and Nick just jump on here and we jump around and we don't have it planned, which normally is about right. But
it's not far from the truth.
on the side of you sharing your story, Lee Gowland shares a very similar story to what it meant to him. Again, I was blown away as much as I know Lee and I class him as one of my good friends like you. I didn't know some of the stuff he'd put in the article. Now, we did try and launch a website about 18 months ago. One of the guys in the group tried to launch it, and I remember doing a similar article. My story is nowhere near yours and Lee's, but I am going to dig mine out and update it and put it on there. Lee Fitzjohn's article is absolutely amazing. He talks about the feelings in sport and the emotional roller coaster that we're all on. And I do believe, and I don't have any more details because me and Lee didn't have time, but I believe there's a young lad, Nick, who's just joined the group. He's at university. And he's putting together an article which will be talking about the season review. And apparently he's used a few of the photos of the group. And so basically, as you can see, we're growing off the field. This time last year, the 49er Faithful UK, we had a Twitter account, we had an Instagram account, we had the Facebook page, and we did the podcast. Now we've got the YouTube channel, we've got our own website. Christian has just joined us, and he's put that he loves the show. He's moved from San Francisco to Washington for his new job. He can't make the first home game against Arizona, but he's wondering if we'd like the tickets. Chris, Ian, the answer to that would be obviously, but unfortunately, getting to California would be the issue for me. But honestly, we appreciate the kind words.
Thank you so much.
And as Ty said, flag football will definitely be an Olympic sport one day. So
it will. The NFL have thrown their considerable weight behind it. They want this to happen. I think it's going to happen.
Now, Nick, I've got something new for you tonight.
Oh.
Well, the segment isn't new, but we go all out on this show. So we've reached that wonderful time, buddy, where we've got our own graphic for the Would You Rather. Now, as host, I will let you go first tonight because it was my turn to host and I stole the thunder last week. So I do have mine written down like last week, but seems I was a little bit evil to you. I'll let you return the favour this week.
Quite frankly, yes, you were mean. I thought it was horrible what you did. So I'm repaying that favour in kind. So my would you rather is quite simple. Would you rather Patrick Willis or Roger Craig be in the Hall of Fame?
Right, there's no way we've got the same would you rather. And I've got it written down. We've got the same. We've got the same would you rather.
It was going to happen eventually. I didn't think it would take this long. So, that's okay.
I will answer first because you said that. So, yeah, based upon us doing the show with Willis and the Roger Craig conversation we had the other week, I did think I'll go a slightly less evil route for Nick this week. So, yeah, that was my question. So, for me, and a lot of people are probably going to say I picked the wrong one, I'm going for Patrick Willis. For everything that I said at the start, for my own fandom, for my own journey in the NFL, I would like to see Patrick Willis in there, personally.
Okay, that's fair. I suppose I'm going to have to answer the same question, really, aren't I?
Well, yeah, because I haven't got time to prepare a new one. I thought I was clever with that one tonight as well. And as Ty said, we're starting to think alike. All I need, Ty, is a residency hat. If residency are watching, Nick needs a residency hat, and then we'll all be good. And if you want to throw him a Club 85 t-shirt as well, Ty, we'll even do a double act. So come on, same hat, same t-shirt.
Already got it, mate. Already got it.
Same would you rather.
So, I'm actually going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Roger Craig. You're talking about a running back that was the first 1,000-yard receiving and rusher. First one to do it, the only one not in the Hall of Fame. And it's not like they've done it in their droves since. For me, I've got to go Roger Craig.
See, for me, I was going to build mine up a little bit. I was going to go on this big speech. I would given you the power 1 week only, but I was going to throw an evil cravat in there where whoever you picked, the other one would never get in. But I thought that was maybe a bit too evil, so I scribbled that out because I thought if I throw that in there, people might get a bit cross at me. But no,
It'd be the end of our friendship, mate. I would have hurt you for that.
to be honest, everybody, I did think Nick would go for Roger Craig. Both worthy. I hope they're both getting one day. But when I was preparing this one tonight, I did think you would go down that route, mate. And I can't believe we've got the same one. Like you said,
I'd say
at some point.
It's right there. It is. I don't know if that can be seen on the thing. It's genuinely there, and it was quite simple.
So, at the moment, I'm just getting my notes ready, everybody. We've got an announcement to make. So, we've been approached by our good friends. I just want to make sure I get this right. The UK Fantasy Football Collective. So, it is a fantasy football event which is held in London annually, and it raises money for a selected charity. So the charity last year, Nick, was Mind, and they raised over £2,000 for Mind and the UK fantasy football community. And they've reached out to us at the 49erFaithfulUK because they've got a new event. So this year's event will be held at Belushi's in London Bridge. It's going to be on Saturday, the 8th of July. It's going to be from noon until 7 p.m. So it's a longer event than what was last year. They're going to have guest speakers from around the world of fantasy football. Scott Fishbowl has gone in partnership with them. So there's going to be a live draft in London this year. There'll be panels on relevant fantasy football topics. There's going to be Q&As with some of the big names in the industry. Various learner corners where if you're brand new to fantasy football, you can learn all sorts of fantasy footballs in a one-to-one conversation. And also, there's going to be stalls. Who doesn't love a good NFL stall where you can purchase NFL-related merch? There's going to be a whole host of raffle prizes to be won at the end of the event. Now, when they sent this to me, they did say the best part was tickets are only £10 each. But then they sent me a follow-up email and said, if you buy your ticket by the end of February, you've got a chance to get into the Scott Fishbowl, which I was lucky enough to be in last year. So for any of you guys out there who play fantasy football, the Scott Fishbowl is a massive charity event. So obviously it's by invite only. So they've linked up well with the lads at the UK FFC. So if you hit them up on Twitter, there's their Twitter handle. They've said all the details. They're happy to do it by DM. So it isn't until the 8th of July, but they're trying to get the word out there, Nick. And obviously the fantasy football is something that is growing in this country. Now, he's about to steal my thunder. I know fine well he's about to steal my thunder. So this year, everybody, I was the 49erFaithfulUK's first double winning champion. I won my league and I won the Champions League. I was feeling all proud and big-headed about it. And I texted Nick and said, I'm mentioning that on tonight's show. And what did you say, Nick?
Don't forget to tell them that the only league in which we both compete, I beat you and won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, you might be a double champion, but coming for you, buddy.
Yeah. So it is something that's growing on this side of the pond. So, again, the lads reached out to us at the UK Fantasy Football Collective. There's nothing in it for us as the 49erFaithfulUK other than promoting good working relationship and giving the London-based fans an event to go to. So if you do manage to buy a ticket and you do go down there, do rep the red and gold, fly the flag, tag us on Twitter. I'd love to see everyone down there. I'm not sure whether I'll make it because I think I'm on my summer holiday then. I'm pretty sure I'm abroad. I think I'll go the Friday or I'll go that day. But to be fair, I think from what I saw last year on Twitter, the event looked awesome. So the fact they've moved it to a bigger venue. If you've got any questions, hit the guys up on DMs or hit me up on a DM and I'll pass it over.
Happy days. It's always good to be using these things to make sure, raise some money for charity, get some good causes going, man. Why not? And who knows, you might get a shot at taking down Paul.
Well, I don't know how I got in last year. I think it was more to do with Dan at Let's Talk Sports. To be honest, I thoroughly enjoyed the Scott Fishbowl. So I ended up in the Edinburgh division. I was up against some of the proper analysts like Pat Fitzmaurice and Adam Roth was in there. And some of the big hitters that you see. The guy from Adam Murphet, who writes the book that you can buy on Instagram, on Amazon, sorry. he was in there, and I was like, I think it was 3,000 people from around the world. My only aim was not to come last. And I think I finished like 2,170 something. I didn't finish last. So that's but the connections I made, the group chat with the Edinburgh group that I was in, and it was real insight to fantasy football on what I call a serious level. And all jokes aside, Nick, I think being part of that helped push me on in the other leagues that I'm in. And like I said, I'm very proud that I'm the first double winner on the 49er Faithful UK. Fantasy football is a big part of what I do. I do enter far too many teams. So just a warning to anybody watching. You're in the off season, you get a cheeky text off your pal who says, do you fancy doing a draft? It's all good and well doing drafts in April, May, June. Just wait until September when you've got 22 teams to set lineups for. That's when it doesn't become fun.
I thought I had too many and I'm running 3. That's it. I'm running 3.
So Kev has put in there what a decision to make about the choice.
Yes, but he sat rather on the fence there. I mean, Kev, a decision, my friend, a decision. Come on. Willis or Craig?
Kev can talk. So me, Nick and Kev are in a group chat, and it tends to be sharing merchandise purely by these two, because Tracy would kill me if I had half the collection these two had. I've got a bad little start, but Kev is asking for you to show off your latest signed helmet. However, he's flexing his own one. That salute to service Christian McCaffrey one Kev has got.
I can't.
Unbelievable.
I can't beat that. No, the new one was a mini. It was John Lynch. He sat behind me without pulling everything off.
Yeah, well, Kev has put great show tonight. Yeah, we are close to those 500 subs on YouTube. So I don't want to badger people. I am going to tweet it out there. In the Facebook group, Nick pointed out to me, we have 2.9 thousand followers on the Facebook group. We would like to see more of those 2.9 thousand translated to YouTube subs. But to be close to 500 so early on in our journey is absolutely amazing. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. We are aiming to bring more content. We start with the live. Lee has been putting the pods on there. I know Lee has probably reached out to yourself, Nick. They're going to do the San Francisco shows in the coming weeks. So you guys who were in the gold mine and went out to San Francisco, that's going to be something pretty awesome.
That's going to be fun.
I'm not going to let him get away, ladies and gentlemen, without a little bit of self-promotion from my co-host tonight. So I believe, Nick, that you've got some news to share about a certain show that you'll be going on Thursday this week.
Indeed. Ted from TED Talk Sports has invited me on, so I shall be joining him Thursday night at 9 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Eastern. I had to do the never eat shredded wheat thing in my head then for a second. 1 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. UK time. So very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, Ted Talks Ball's a big fan of what we do. I've been on a few times. El Presidente has been on. I can't wait to see you on Ted's Instagram grid. So if you follow Ted on Instagram, everybody, it's a who's who of 49er content creators. And then there's little old us from the UK. Don't know how we've managed to get a space on there, but I'll take it. And he's a good friend. And I'm buzzing that you're going on there. So a couple of comments. So Kev's put there, we are close to 3,000 on Facebook. The Facebook one's a bit different, Kev, because it's a closed group. So we only let 49er fans in on there. Ian has put on there, anyone thinking of going to Jacksonville next season for our game? Nice to get a big group out there. I think we're playing Jacksonville as the road team, Ian, and we're hoping.
We're hoping that's going to be the London game.
That's going to be the London game. However, El Presidente is trying to get 40 49er Faithful UK fans out to Levi's for a game. So if you're not part of the Facebook group, Ian, jump in the Facebook group. If you don't do Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I'm going to get either myself, Nick, or 49er Faithful UK. What's Kev? Oh, Kev has answered your question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that one's. It's tucked down the bottom. He's in bed now. It's late. He's tucked in bed.
Kev, we're going to do an episode all on Nick's merchandise. Don't worry. He hasn't got time to get it out with the cabinet tonight. But all jokes aside, you do have an awesome collection, mate. And it's nice to see. Whenever I do the shows, Kev, I'm like, what's he added in the background now? And I'm like narrowing in, seeing if there's anything new.
No, there was a nice delivery over. I say, I think I put it all in the group. There was a few jerseys, helmets. They're all nice and framed up, ready to go on the walls. So, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The only reason I'm allowed all this is because, well, it's just me. There's no one to tell me off. I'm not sure there's any woman in Swansea that would tolerate this potentially.
Well, he doesn't have a good support network, everyone, because he drops it in the group chat and we're just like, buy it. Get it, buy it. So if he's looking for people to say no, he needs new friends. But Jason's just came in there like a wrecking ball, Nick, he's only got one helmet. And I felt a bit sorry when I read that. And then I read the signed by Dwight Clark and Joe Montana. So, Jason, if you only ever end up with that one, buddy, that is an awesome piece.
This is it. That's my holy grail.
Yeah, I'm going to say. So, yeah, Ian, drop us a follow on Twitter. I'll keep this fully updated. But just want to say thanks to everybody who's joined us tonight. Obviously, the chat has been on fire. It's always great to catch up with my man Nick. Do we have any public service announcements tonight, Nick? You haven't shredded your notes again, have you? Because I'm just thinking we have the same notes, don't we? So we might as well just...
No, there's nothing more really from me, to be honest, other than to say once again, guys, thank you all so much for joining. It really does mean the world to us. You take your time on your Tuesday nights and get in with us here and chat 49ers. It does mean the world. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys. It'll help move this on. Thank you all so very much. I suppose that's all for another week from 49er Faithful UK Live. And as always, go Niners.
Back next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, Detroit.